A dangerous 48 hours ahead, wind and rain battering parts of western Washington.
There's also the flooding in some towns. Rivers could rise to historic levels. Rescues are underway near the Canadian border. In the town of Sumas, it's submerged as people are being boated to safety. In Mount Vernon, the flood walls are going up right now, where the Skagit River is expected to hit its highest level ever recorded. And we have our eye on several towns along the Skagit tonight. Areas like Concrete, Hamilton have already been hit hard, and the river hasn't crested yet. A major concern with any big storm, the landslides. One currently blocking all northbound traffic on I-5 at milepost 245 in Whatcom County. 3 vehicles were hit. Everyone's okay. That's the good news. State Patrol says get ready for a long closure. It could be hours. And take a look at this. Wind blew a semi-truck over as it crossed the Deception Pass Bridge. The driver escaped, but now a tow truck is having to pull the semi upright.
And in the hours ahead, we could be adding several inches of snow in the passes. It was a busy afternoon in the Weather Center, and I'm tracking it all coming up.
Thank you, Mike. We want to get to our team coverage of the flooding.
Emergency officials in Whatcom County say this is the worst in 3 decades, and more is still to come. Border towns like Sumas are cut off from the rest of the world tonight, leaving people to rescue their neighbors. King 5's Eric Wilkinson is live near Sumas tonight, where those rescue efforts are underway. Eric.
Now, Mark, this farmland here completely flooded, washing out one of the main roads in and out of Sumas, and they're not enough rescue personnel to get in and get those folks out of there. So the call has gone out for people to bring their own personal boats. Here, this is someone's tractor behind us that's all lit up. They've been making passes back and forth to try to ferry people out of there. We've seen a few dozen people come out, folks out here just taking matters into their own hands. With city and county rescue crews inundated with calls for help, neighbors are forced to take their fishing boats out and troll for people.
They're in a bad way out there. There's a lot of water, and it's only getting higher.
Jordan Beld has family stranded in the floodwaters and is desperate to get them to safety as the waters rise.
A couple hours ago, they all thought they were all right, and now water has showed up, and it's coming full force. So,
how deep is it out there? How bad is it?
I've heard in neighborhoods we're up to 4 or 5 feet. People got a foot in their house.
This is downtown Sumas along the Canadian border, almost completely cut off. Sarah Ivanhoe and her 15-year-old son left their home when water started flooding inside. They live about 2 miles away and had to wade through freezing cold water until a boat came by to pick them up.
There was nothing in our house in less than 30 minutes. It was up to our knees, our ankles, and outside in our yard. For me, it was like up to my waist in some spots.
How scared were you?
Terrified.
It's bad. It's pretty deep. It's fast. It's dirty. It's cold.
Rescues are happening all across Whatcom County. Emergency officials reporting about 70 by late morning. At one point, I-5 North was closed down after trees fell across the highway.
We're still kind of in that mode where, okay, what's next?
Emergency managers say people are ignoring road closed signs and then getting stuck, putting themselves and rescue crews at risk.
In 2020, we actually did have a firefighter that almost was swept away trying to rescue somebody.
For now, folks are simply getting people to safety any way they can and grateful for a community that cares so deeply.
We're a pretty tight community, so we have a lot of family everywhere, and a lot of family means a lot of people need help. That's what community does. We're here to help each other, so we're going to give it a go and see if we can do something for them.
Back live now, you can see some folks have lit a fire here to try to keep warm. It is getting very, very cold out here. We have a bit of good news to report. We are told so far there haven't been any serious injuries here in Whatcom County anyway in terms of this storm. We are told, however, that there are at least 300 people in various shelters across Whatcom County. We'll have another update for you coming up tonight at 6:30, but for now, reporting live near Sumas, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
We'll talk with you then, Eric. Thank you. Mount Vernon is preparing for historic flooding. School there has been canceled for tomorrow. The flood walls are now up along the Skagit River, and making matters worse, all of the debris in the water, you can blame that on the flooding upstream. King 5's Glenn Farley joining us live in Mount Vernon tonight. So Glenn, some good news for people in the Northeast, but that is not the case where you are.
No, and the worst of it has yet to come. So they're talking about water that is going to be basically up to here on this part of the flood wall. But if it keeps going up, it may be on the other side of this. The swollen Skagit River leaves no doubt it's coming. All day, it's been busy on the Mount Vernon waterfront, putting up a flood wall that will receive its first real test.
If the river were to get to about 38 feet, it would be about flush with the top of the wall. And so, you know, right now the prediction of 37.6 has us thinking maybe we should add the extra 3 feet as a precaution.
Peter Donovan is with the mayor's office here. A lifelong resident, he remembers how it used to be.
I can remember sandbagging on the levee in 1990 and 1995, around those years. Also sandbagging here at downtown in 2003.
The city finished this wall in 2017. Normally it's brick and concrete help enhance a walk along the river. But make no mistake, when the Skagit threatens, the walkways are plugged and braced and the wall raised higher.
And when those extra slats go in, we're covered to 41 feet.
For me on occasion, and they said they would break school and come and sandbag the river.
Earlier, amidst the wind and rain, I met downtown building owner Steve Cohan.
Rain's notwithstanding, you glad this flood wall is here? It's not that old.
Oh, very much glad. When we bought the building, they had not quite finished this, and then they did, and my insurance went way down.
The river and the wall are a tourist attraction even in the middle of a storm. After all, history may well be made here tomorrow.
But yeah.
Look at some of those logs. I mean, that's a power, and the force of the water is amazing.
Linda and Jim Patterson.
This is quite an improvement.
Yeah, and here it is. So again, tomorrow is probably going to be its first big test. It's had some low-level flooding up against it before. At 9 o'clock, the Division Street Bridge is expected to be closed when the water level reaches 35 feet. That's a precaution. Also, they're asking people in western Mount Vernon to voluntarily evacuate. They have a center set up for them that the Red Cross is operating. That is the Bethany Covenant Church. That opens for those folks in about an hour. Live in Mount Vernon, Glenn Farley, King 5 News.
Glenn, thanks so much. Now in the tiny town of Hamilton, people were told to evacuate overnight. City crews have piled up a wall of sandbags. We even spotted a boat on the flooded roadways helping to get people to safety. Flood sirens in the area have gone off at least twice.
New at 5 o'clock, all the damage isn't just up north. Take a look at these massive trees that fell in Auburn today. Valley Regional Fire says 5 trees have fallen on roads and homes today alone. And that doesn't include 13 power lines that have also come down during the storm. And taking a look at power outages now, we know that both Whidbey and Vashon Islands don't have any power right now. And taking a look at the Puget Sound energy map, you can see right now there are 93,000 customers waiting for the power to come back on.
So a lot of damage, a lot of flooding, a lot of work to be done in terms of restoring power. But the worst of the storms, at least for now, is over, right, Mike?
And that's the good news here, is it looks like it peaked right around 2 o'clock this afternoon when that frontal boundary moved through. That was the peak of our winds, but it was also the last hurrah for that rain as well. Now, we do have plenty of flood warnings, and wow, Glenn and Eric doing a phenomenal job to help and tell that story. 35 feet. Good Lord, that is high. Everything you see in those green colors, that is where our flood warnings are currently. They are in place at least until through tomorrow night, but I have a feeling they may be extended out there. We still have the flood watches in effect for everybody in the lighter green there, and then also we still have that wind advisory in place until 7 o'clock tonight. But again, there's some good news embedded in there. We are going to be clearing, cooling, and calming as we go through the rest of the night. Now, the slide threat is still very real. There's still some saturated ground out there, and winds will remain breezy overnight tonight. And we are tracking some rain and snow that is stubbornly staying in place over top of the convergence zone. I'll show you that in a moment. The great news, though, at least for the time being, is the frontal boundary has passed us by. That's a loop. It's now off towards our south. We're going to get really chilly. I'm going to tell you more about that, and we're going to be tracking some clear skies coming up.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Well, Sounder trains north of Seattle, they are canceled again tomorrow. Sound Transit canceled service as a precaution because of the risk of landslides along that route. Scott Thompson told us Amtrak and others have done a lot to mitigate landslide risk along the tracks, but they have been adding all kinds of things like fencing.
One of the other things we do, we work with U.S. Geological Survey to have monitoring equipment in the ground so we can see when the saturation levels of the ground are getting to the point where there's potential landslide activity.
While the North Line service is canceled, riders are encouraged to use regular bus service.